Welcome into week 3 of Central Texas Game Day, brought to you by the Zimmerman Law Firm. Shaw G. Adam, Donna Connor. Donna, we're already here at week 3. It's unbelievable.
Season is moving. We're a week away from conference play kicking off. I don't know how we got here, but we did.
Yeah, I'm still exhausted from week 2, but, let's kind of do a quick recap of each other's games. How did you feel A&M looked last week?
I thought A&M took some positive steps forward. They shored up some things with their run defense, shored up some things tackling. We saw another impressive offensive performance from them. And so now comes the real test with Notre Dame, a ranked matchup on the road. It's been a long time, 46 years since they won a ranked non-conference road matchup. So big test for the Aggies. We'll see what they can do and see if everything that we've seen so far is building to maybe a big win in South Bend. Now, big week last week for the Bears, right?
Yeah, I'm still breathing. I'm still trying to, have a sigh of relief because that was one of the most wildest games I've ever seen in my life. It looked like Baylor was out of it. They were down by 2 scores, but then somehow they crawled back and won. Amazing effort there. They won in overtime. The crowd was insane. The Baylor crowd well represented there. That was awesome. This was a much-needed win. If they had gone down 0-2, I have no idea how Baylor fans would feel right now. They already felt deflated after week 1, so getting a big win against a ranked SMU to keep the undefeated streak alive, that's pretty special right there.
I agree. And now they've got a home game. They're back here at McLean against Samford, so feels like they could use this to build some momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an early kickoff, and we're going to preview that historic matchup with Notre Dame and, of course, the matchup with Samford, which is an early kickoff one at 11 a.m. Don't go anywhere. Stick around for more Central Texas Game Day.
Last year, Texas A&M and Notre Dame faced off at Kyle Field, where the Irish came away with a 23-13 win to open up the season. Now, the Aggies head to South Bend 2-0 with a more experienced roster and a new quarterback under center. Notre Dame is also starting a new quarterback, and they're hungry to get in the win column. But for A&M, it's been 46 years since the Aggies have won a ranked non-conference road matchup. So will Elko and company be able to get it done Saturday night?
Obviously, for us to take the next step as a program, that's the next hurdle that we have to get over. We got over the winning on the road last year. Now we got to get over the winning at night on the road against a top 10 team.
Oh, yeah, everyone knows those first 2 games. Yeah, they were opponents, but everyone knows at the beginning of this year, we circled this game on the schedule, and this is going to be the first big game that we get to show what we can do.
While it's a new season and a new team, both the Aggies and the Irish walk into this one more cemented in their respective systems.
That's always an exciting chess match when you go into a game like that and the other team. I think last year there was a lot more unknown. It was Coach Denbrock's first game there as an OC, and we didn't know exactly what it would all look like. It was our first game as a staff, and so I think there's a little bit more of that chess match that will go on, and that's always interesting.
With a majority of this A&M roster returning from last season, emotions surrounding this game will surely be heightened after dropping last year's opener at home. The Aggies will rely on the highs and lows of last season to harness that emotion headed into Saturday night.
I think that's where, hopefully some of the stages and some of the opportunities that we were on last year help. Some of the success that we had beating top 10 teams, some of the failures that we had losing some of those games. I think those were all opportunities for us to learn and grow. And I think the more you get into these opportunities, you understand the level of emotion that comes into these games.
A&M will also see one of the top running back duos in the country in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price.
I think it's as talented a duo as I've played against. I was actually talking about this, that the only thing that I can remember in the ballpark was when I was actually at Notre Dame and we played Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel, and that group was really talented. But these 2 kids are really, really good. Their athleticism for their size, the way they hit the hole, the power with which they run, they're both effective pass catchers. These 2 kids are really, really talented football players.
They're both on great backs. Very intelligent backs. They know what the defensive game probably going to be. So just wrapping them up, making sure we take them to the ground, hitting them when we need to, extra wear and tear on his body, because they're both gifted. They're just both some gifted backs.
And from one tradition-filled venue to another, Elko, who spent a year as Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, shared his experiences at Notre Dame Stadium.
The thing I've always said to people about Notre Dame is you can just feel the history and tradition, you know, from touchdown Jesus to just the feel in and around the stadium. You feel tradition, you feel history, you feel what that program has meant for so long to college football, and then obviously they've done a really good job with some of the recent renovations to create the modern feel to it as well. And so it's a cool place. I think it's a really unique place. It'll be a great atmosphere.
We had a bump in the road to start the season, but things seem to be back on track for the Baylor Bears after a thriller in Dallas against SMU. The Baylor Bears are coming off a thriller in Dallas. An overtime win against SMU turned the tide, giving the Bears something to build off.
It's been good. You know, I was just talking to John. It's like the margin between winning and losing is so small, you know, and so that game could have gone many different ways, but it's obviously a lot better to be on the winning side of that. But we also understand that, like, we did not play anywhere near our best, right? So you got to enjoy it, and then you got to reset and say, all right, we're back to work, and we got a lot of things that we can improve on and need to put on display this Saturday.
A real strong energy about that, too, and I think winning does that. And so I think sometimes when you're losing, just roadblocks appear. You see the truth, but is it really worth it to go through all of this to get to it? Where I think when you win, the road is opened up again.
I think it's going to be pretty huge. I don't think we're going to see anyone else like those Auburn guys, like Keldrick. He was a challenge, and I mean, I think you could see that he was giving us some trouble. And I think, you know, his watching the film back on that and kind of like getting a feel for him, I think that's that talent from SMU and Auburn is gonna make us a lot better.
A huge part of that success is quarterback Sawyer Robertson. Robertson has thrown for more than 800 yards in 2 games with 7 touchdowns. While the defense is playing catch-up, they have made key plays in key moments.
Oh, it's been pretty sweet. Sawyer's been ripping it, and so he's been dicing up the defenses. I think, you know, along with us in the O-line, we've kind of been struggling in the run game wise, but I think this week is going to be a pretty good week to figure out, you know, those missing pieces and establish a strong run game.
Just fight, you know, the character really showed up, and you know, Devin Bobby, Keaton Thomas, like whatever happened on the previous series, it was like, all right, like what's next? You know, it's like whatever it takes this next drive. And so it was really cool to see just the response to adversity, you know, and that's something that doesn't just show up on a Saturday, you know, that's built all the way back in January with Coach Vic in the weight room. And so I was just really proud of them because whatever, you know, came in our way, they just attacked everything that was there. And it was really cool to see them step up like that at the end.
The Bears get ready for Samford, and after that Big 12 play begins, the Bears feel ready for conference play.
I think it's going to be pretty huge. I don't think we're going to see anyone else like those Auburn guys, like Keldrick. He was a challenge, and I mean, I think you could see that he was giving us some trouble. And I think, you know, his watching the film back on that and kind of like getting a feel for him, I think that's that talent from SMU and Auburn is going to make us a lot better.
Stay with us here on Central Texas Game Day. Coming up, I'll have one of the more crazy sequences of this young season. We'll be right back. There are certain games that will be unforgettable. Texas A&M's 7 overtime win over LSU, Auburn's KXXV in the Iron Bowl. And then there are individual feats that happen once or twice, like Patrick Mahomes and Connor Halliday throwing for 734 yards in a single game. All get up out of your seat moments that seem to happen once in a blue moon. Well, last Saturday afternoon at Kyle Field, Aggie defensive lineman Cassius Howell did something the college football world has only seen once before. A statistical anomaly, if you will. And in case you missed it, here's a look back at his impressive feat.
Cassius Howell, man, he's a dog.
Play action fake. Barnes steps up. He's hits. Cassius Howell, his first sack.
All right, came around that end and hit him from behind. He never saw it coming.
Barnes sacked again. Back at the 10-yard line.
Well, that sideline, Texas Aggie sideline is excited. They are pumped up.
Empty backfield on the snap. Barnes sacked again! Back at the 2! 3 consecutive sacks by Texas A&M, and Cassius Howell has just taken over this game.
And they're all the way back to the 1-yard line. They'll have to punt it away from there on this 4th and a bunch.
They are at their own 4. They lost 21 yards.
I loved it. He put us back, well, not put us in the game, but like, you know, he kept the momentum of the game going, you know.
You know, after the first one happened, you know, I was starting to get, you know, confident, you know, within my pass rush. So, you know, they threw it again. He had kind of like overset me, so that gave me the inside lane to, you know, just shoot the inside lane, and that's how I got the second one. And then after that, it was just like the third one. I was like, man, if they pass it, who knows? I was just in like a flow state at that point. So, and yeah, they threw it, and yeah, the rest is history for real.
I ain't gonna lie, I was on the field and I'm saying it live. I'm like, yo, he just won. Then he won again. Like, yo, he just did it 3 times. And I wanted to turn up with him, but I didn't want to take none of his shine, man. So I just let that boy do him. But that was honestly one of the craziest things I've seen. And I've been around a lot of good pass rushers, but that was one of a kind right there.
I was tired. For real. Dayon came pressing on my chest. I'm like, hold on, bro. Let me get up. But yeah, no, I was really just tired. But yeah, no, I was definitely happy at the plays that I made, though, for sure.
After his performance against the Utah State Aggies, Hal earned both SEC Defensive Line Player of the Week honors and Walter Camp Defensive Player of the Week. If that wasn't enough, just one day later, former Aggie defensive lineman Myles Garrett recorded back-to-back sacks in the Browns opener against the Bengals. So earlier this week, I asked Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko, is it safe to call Texas A&M D-line university?
We've had a really, really good run. You know, I don't know if I would call us D-line university, but we've had a really, really good run. I think, you know, Myles got here. Myles left right before I got here as a defensive coordinator. I think we've talked about this before, but since I've been here in 2018, we've had more D-linemen drafted than any other team in the SEC. You know, when you look at from Vaughn Miller to Myles to what Justin Madubuike is doing, Bobby Brown had a good game in Carolina on Saturday. We've got a lot of guys making a lot of plays, and so yeah, it's really cool to see all those guys put on for Texas A&M.
So with that, let's take a look around the league and see how the Aggies in the NFL fared in Week 1. You heard Elko say a few of these names already. Nnamdi Madubuike combined for 6 tackles and a sack in the Ravens' 41-40 loss to the Bills. Of course, Myles Garrett with his 2 sacks, he finished the day with 5 tackles in the Browns' 17-16 loss to the Bengals. Linebacker Edgerrin Cooper went off in Green Bay's opener against the Lions. He finished the day with 12 combined tackles, 7 of those unassisted, as the Packers went on to beat the Lions 27-13. And Dolphins running back Devon Achane rushed for 55 yards on 7 carries last Sunday. He also had 3 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown in Miami's Week 1 loss to the Colts. There are 27 former Aggie football players that are active on NFL rosters. We'll see which ones can make an impact on Sunday.
How good is Sawyer Robertson playing? The quarterback in Game 1 against Auburn threw for 419 yards and 3 touchdowns. Against SMU, he had 440 yards and 4 touchdowns. These performances are getting him recognition, with Sawyer being awarded the AP Player of the Week, Walter Camp National Offensive Player of the Week, and Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. If these performances continue, there's no denying Sawyer getting national attention. Coming up to talk more in depth about Baylor's season so far, I sit down with the head of Baylor sports journalism, Jerry Hill, and get his thoughts. Stick around for more Central Texas Game Day. Well, welcome back into Central Texas Game Day. Now I'm joined by the head of sports journalism here at Baylor and part of the Baylor Bear Insider, Jerry Hill. Jerry, thank you so much for joining me right now.
Absolutely.
All right, well, this has been a very interesting season so far for Baylor football. Yeah. Obviously, you had that first game against Auburn, then you had this insane game against SMU. Have you ever seen such a difference in 2 games before?
You know, obviously in how many ever years that I've covered it, I probably have seen the different stuff like that. But, you know, against 2 Power 5 teams too. I mean, it was kind of an interesting way to start the season just in general, playing Auburn and SMU back to back. But, yeah, I mean, you come from it was tough. The opening loss was just because, you know, I don't think you played your best, and I did think Auburn was pretty good. You know, history will tell, I guess, by the end of the season. But and then you face a very good SMU team. I think they'll, you know, contend for the ACC certainly and CFP. But and even in that game, you know, there were ebbs and flows and stuff, and you weren't sure exactly how this game was going to come out. I believe in the 4th quarter, ESPN had it at like 98.9% that SMU was going to win when they were up 2 touchdowns. So just to come back like that, and, you know, the dramatic ending, you know, and then them field goal, walk-off field goal. Man, it was a lot different feeling walking off the field.
From your perspective, when they were up by 2 touchdowns, did you kind of feel like it was over at that point?
I don't know that I felt like it was completely over because you had time, but you weren't sure if the defense was going to come up with a stop. That was the big thing, you know. And the defense, rightfully so, has you know, taken its share of hits over the first couple of weeks, but they did come up with stops there in that second half. Even in the third quarter, they came up with stops, the end zone interception. So you knew if they could come up with a stop, that the offense would have time to score twice, but you had to come up with that stop, or you know, you weren't going to get. I could have seen SMU just running the clock, you know, but weren't able to get a first down, had to punt, and Baylor got the ball back.
Yeah, kind of talking about the defense. This is year 2 with Dave Aranda calling the defense. I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but you kind of shocked at like the defense's relative inefficiency so far?
I think part of it is you've got so many newcomers. I think that's some of it that are still trying to get comfortable with the defense. You know, I would have thought they would have taken some more steps by now, but I think this will be a deal, and we'll probably see that by the end of the year, kind of like last year. You know, does the defense just make steps each time? And I think they did take some steps, and even from first half to second half, I thought they took some steps. So we'll see. I mean, because they gave up, I think it was like 300 or right at a little over 300 yards in that first half, and I think before the first overtime, it was like only maybe less than 150 yards that they'd gained in the second half. So I'm seeing, you know, progress, but then, you know, you've had some injuries and stuff too. Jackie Marshall was out pretty much that whole game. So I think maybe when they get fully healthy, I think you'll see a lot more progress.
You know, talking about that SMU game, one thing that really stood out to me is there was a really good amount of Baylor fans there.
Oh,
obviously, like I know it wasn't that far of a drive, but it was good to see a lot of Baylor fans there. The eruption when they won and then running, it was so cool to be in that crowd and see that. How much have you seen like Baylor Nation kind of grow with this team? You know, with the football team, like over the years.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where you kind of notice it, maybe even more than at home, is when you're on the road and you have that kind of support, you know, and it's been that way at like TCU and other places, you know, where they're able to drive, or you have a really big donor base, or, you know, graduation group that's in that area, Dallas being one of those. So I don't know that it surprised me last Saturday in the SMU game, but that is cool. I mean, because you never know. You're coming off a loss too. You know, who's going to show up, but they did. They showed up.
Well, one name that they were chanting at the end was, I think everybody knows, is Sawyer Robertson, number 13. He is playing unbelievable football. Have you seen, I mean, obviously besides RG3, have you seen a quarterback of this caliber so far, Baylor football, besides RG3?
Yeah, I mean, I think they had that stretch, you know, with Robert and even Nick Florence for that year, and Bryce Petty, back-to-back Big 12 championships. So there's been good quarterbacks, obviously, even Seth Russell after that. But as far as numbers, no. I mean, you know, nobody's put up these kinds of numbers. I mean, you know, I think even in the Big 12, or maybe it was college football, first since Patrick Mahomes in 2016, that had put up these kinds of numbers, over 400 yards passing and the number of touchdowns and everything that he's had. So he's really playing at a different level. You kind of saw it last year, you know, him growing and becoming such a better player. You know, when he had to fill in the year before in 23 with when Blake Shapen got hurt, he will admit he just didn't play well. Maybe he wasn't ready for the moment, that kind of thing. I think last year he showed that he was ready, and then this year he's just at a different level. I think you know, he did a lot of things in the off season to get ready for this, and I think this is his year. You know, this is a year when, you know, and I know his Heisman odds weren't very big, obviously, when the season began, but if he keeps playing like this and Baylor keeps winning, I think you could see him at least, you know, in the running for that.
My first season here was seeing Sawyer's first time playing in 23.
Right.
And you've obviously been here for 19 years, so you've seen plenty of Baylor football. But when it comes to Sawyer, are you kind of like, do you kind of like reflect and like are shocked by how much he's grown in a matter of these 3 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, and I wasn't that aware of him or knew his background that well, particularly going into the 23 season. So I don't know that what my expectations were that year. But yeah, you've seen him just get so much better. I mean, if you think back to that season when he started 4 games that year to now, that's just an unbelievable leap that he's made, to get to where he is now, where again, I mean, he's got to be among the top quarterbacks in the country right now.
And like you kind of answered my question a little bit before, but at what point, if he continues this, does he kind of just he has to get national recognition at some point, especially with the way he's playing? Do you kind of feel at some point he's going to be undeniable at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the national media is slower to catch on, but I mean, AP National Player of the Week this past week from the SMU game. So I think you're starting to see that, and even on some of the TV broadcasts and stuff, you're starting to see people actually recognize who this guy is and that he's really good. And but yeah, I think it will take though probably some more wins. If they can run off several in a row here, get in the rankings, that's something that will give him more attention. So if they can do that, then I think you'll see his name up there in, say a top 10 list for the Heisman favorites.
I think Dave said it best. He said it's a lot easier to handle the mess when there's a win.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to handle all that ugly that happened, because there was, the multiple times SMU scored on the first play of a drive.
Right. Yeah.
And, kind of going back a little bit to that first game of the season against Auburn, all that hype, and unfortunately did come up with a loss. So Baylor Nation was a little upset, a little taken aback. But I feel like they've are a little bit more excited now with that SMU win. But so now, how important is it to get that first win at home this season?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, and hopefully it's packed house again. That was the thing. That was maybe the disappointment that first week is it was packed. Blackout. The gold chrome helmets. So much build up to it. And then you lose. So I think, you've got to get a big, your first home win. I remember I was at, I guess, maybe in 23, where you had 8 home games and won 1. So you can't go through that again. We got 7 this year. So you need to get that first home win and again, kind of build momentum going into Big 12 play, because that's kind of when you make your hay, is in conference play. So hopefully they get that win this week and kind of have that momentum rolling going into Arizona State.
All right, well, to wrap this up, kind of put you on that, not to mean to put you on the spot here, but do we have a prediction for Saturday's game?
Baylor wins. How about that? Is that good enough?
That's good enough.
Good enough. Baylor wins. How about that? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jerry, for joining me here. I appreciate you as always. And don't go anywhere. We got more Central Texas Game Day.
Welcome back into Central Texas Game Day. Joining me today to talk about the Aggies' upcoming matchup against number 8 Notre Dame, it's Notre Dame beat writer Mike Berardino from the South Bend Tribune. Mike, thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here, Donna. It should be a good one.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's jump right in. Notre Dame coming off a bye week after a 3-point loss on the road to now number 5 Miami. I want to get started with the offense. Let's talk about CJ Carr making his first career start, threw for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. What'd you make of his performance? What do you think he did well, and where do you want to see him grow in week 2?
Well, he certainly trusted his own abilities, because if anything that you could fault, he pulled the ball a little too much on the RPOs instead of just letting Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price just take it and do the work. I think you'll see more of the running game this week, but putting the ball in the air, of course, they started with a lot of quick, short passing, safe throws behind the line. As the game went on, you could see that Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, was trusting CJ more. As Marcus Freeman likes to say, if you left it up to CJ, he'd throw down the field every pass. He's got an arm that can fit it into tight windows. Yes, he's going into his second career start here, but he knows what he can do. The thing is, he's running a whole operation with a really good tight end, with excellent weapons at running back, and with a lot of quick and shifty guys out wide. So he needs to be the point guard.
Right. And then kind of to that, you talked about this running back duo, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. Last week, it felt like they could be I don't want to say the face of this offense, but they are a huge piece, super talented backs. They only combined for 104 yards from scrimmage, 20 touches. Do you want to see more from them this week, or do you think part of the plan is maybe to spread out the offense more for CJ? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, definitely. The fan base wants to see more. Marcus Freeman's on record, wants to see more. Mike Denbrock's been around the block. He knows how to call a game. But it's a matter of how much will Texas A&M load the box the way Miami did. And if they put that eighth defender in the box, the right read for CJ Carr in many cases was to pull it and make a quick throw. If you're going to run into the teeth of a defense that's there gearing to stop the run, they're daring you to pass. So that every play is going to be like that in terms of what you see out of run or pass in the RPO, and that's how Notre Dame does it too, like so many. You really can't force feed it. What they may not do as much is split Jeremiah Love out into the slot, trying to get him going in the passing game because he's got good hands. He can be a threat, but if you've already split him out into the slot before the snap, you're kind of obviously showing that you don't have to worry about him running it. I guess you could do an end around. He's so versatile. And they never did use him in the kickoff return game. Price is back there, but that was one of the offseason kind of fun things to consider that Freeman said, well, we might put them both back there in kickoff return. And so more touches for both Love and Price. Price didn't touch the ball again after he fumbled down on the 3-yard line. Carr pounced on it, and so they ended up scoring. But even that, he got benched for the rest of the game unofficially. But he was back in front of the media again this week and in good spirits. So nobody's in the doghouse. It is a 1A, 1B kind of thing. They both can take it to the house.
Right. And the 12th man saw that last year here at Kyle Field for sure.
Yes.
And of course, Mike Elko talking about this is one of the best back duos he's seen. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like we should expect to see more action from them this week. You'd hope. And like you said, Irish fans are probably hoping for the same. But I feel like we should also talk about the offensive line because I feel like that was probably one of the weaker spots when you look at that Miami game afterwards going, ooh, is this a shaky part of the Irish this season? Or do you think maybe it was just a scenario where it's week one and, there are certain things that need to get cleaned up?
Well, it's definitely a concern. You're right. I mean, they went from talking a good game in the offseason and so much returning experience. They can't, a year ago at A&M, that line that did so well, held up so well against future pros, came in with 6 career starts. This group came into this year with 52 career starts because most of them made it through the year, injury aside. Aside from the center, Ashton Craig, who missed the last 13 games last year with a torn ACL, the rest of the guys struggled, and especially right tackle and team captain Emil Wagner. He's got a lot to prove this week because Reuben Bain and his buddy on the other side of the edge at Miami just tore him up, not just in the final series when everybody knew they had to pass, but I think that was why the short passing game was the preference going in because, deep down, Notre Dame wasn't quite sure if they were going to be able to hold those guys off. The Pro Football Focus grades for pass defense are scary to look at. I'm sure for those guys, their own grading system, with Joe Rudolph, their longtime offensive line coach, it's they have a lot to prove, chip on the shoulder kind of thing. But they do have something to draw from because a year ago against the Elko schemes, some different personnel, but they really held up well. And there was largely it's the same group, but it's going to be one of the subtexts of this game is if you want CJ Carr to stretch the field, you've got to give him more than a second and a half.
You're absolutely right. I also want to go for the 12th man who might be traveling to South Bend for this game. What's the atmosphere like?
Well, I think it's generally pretty friendly around here. You'll see if they walk the streets of downtown South Bend, I think there'll be curiosity and some questions. I think they'll give them directions. I don't think it'll be come game time. It sounds like you guys are going to travel. The A&M group will travel, maybe 20,000 expected up here in the corner of the Notre Dame Stadium. So it won't be a takeover as happened when Georgia came up here years ago or when Ohio State came over. They bought up a lot of tickets. But we're looking forward to that. And do they do the yelling? Do they do the whole yell leading during the game on the road? Are they allowed to do that?
That's a good question. I don't know if they bring their yell leaders. I'm not 100% on that, but
'Cause
I'm sure
that's
somebody
yeah,
in the
that
crowd might get it going.
yeah, it's like going to the circus to watch that. So, I'd be still fascinated by that. Notre Dame people would probably like to see that, but they also would like to see it happening with with Notre Dame comfortably ahead. But yeah, it's I think it is kind of a mecca of college football, and everybody gets up here, check out the grotto, check out the basilica, just walk around campus, and enjoy your time in South Bend.
Historic for sure. I feel like, similarly, a lot of tradition going on at both
Yeah.
schools.
Yes.
So, want to wrap up with a score prediction. What are you thinking for the game on Saturday night?
Yeah, I really struggled with that because there were times in recent weeks before the Miami game, if Notre Dame had eked out a win at Miami, I think I would have been really tempted to pick A&M to win this game. But the fact that Notre Dame is going to be a little feisty and not anywhere interested in going 0-2, I went ahead and picked Notre Dame 31-21. I do think the tackling is an issue. I do think these running backs are going to get going. And CJ Carr showed a lot more maybe than people expected in the first game. So a lot of the questions have been removed on his poise and his ability to pick out open receivers and just trusting in that Denbrock offense. So I went 31-21 based on the fact that those first two opponents, San Antonio and Utah State, they averaged 23. I realized a lot of reserves appeared in those games, but that's how I went. What did you have?
I don't know. I'm back and forth on this one. I want to say I think it'll be a little bit closer. I'm thinking maybe 24-21. And I want to say A&M, but again, we haven't seen them be able to go win the big game on the road. And
Yes.
so to me, this one I would pencil in, maybe not Sharpie in, but I would maybe go 24-21 A&M. We'll see. But I mean, you're right. I think a big part of that is going to be if that defense can shore up and make some tackles. And I think against a running back duo like Love and Price, I really think that it's going to be a big test. So we shall see. We shall see. Mike, thanks so much for joining me. If you want to check out Mike's stuff, he does great stuff on IndyInsider.com, and also check out the Pot of Gold. I was listening to it earlier. It's fantastic. Mike, thanks so much for joining me. Stay here with us on Central Texas Game Day. We will be back with more.
Diamond.
Happy weekend to you. It's going to be a big football weekend, not only here in the Lone Star State, but all across the country. And starting off at McLean Stadium at 11 a.m., looks like temperatures will be climbing through the 80s. Southeast winds about 5 to 15, no threat of rain. It'll be pretty warm out there, especially as the game continues to wear on. Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, that's where the Aggies will be, and that will be at 6:30 tonight. 70s and maybe a couple of showers out there with south winds at about 10 miles per hour. And in Austin today, it does appear that 90s will be around. South winds about 10 miles per hour, no threat of rain. So a hot one there down in the capital city. And as we take a look out in Lubbock, we will have a slight chance of a thunderstorm as the Red Raiders take on Oregon State. 2:30 p.m. there, 80s, and again, just that slight chance of rain. So we're going to continue to track this as we make our way through the day today, but overall, looking like a pretty typical September football forecast.
The Texas Longhorns are back at home hosting UTEP, and after a disastrous start against Ohio State, number 7 Texas is looking to find their momentum again.
While picking up their first win of the season, the 7th-ranked UT football team also picked up several penalties along the way. 12 to be exact for 115 yards, 8 coming on the offensive side of the ball.
I felt bad for Demo because I took away a big gain from him. I just got to be better at blocking. I think that was something I was working on last week, and I got to continue to work on that too because that changes the entire first drive.
When you get a penalty, there's a consequence. The team suffers, right? You go back 5 yards, you go back 15 yards. The opponent gets to continue to possess the ball because you rough a punter. There's consequences to penalties. Well, we need to have consequences in practice too.
We ran a little bit extra today. Really just got to lock in and be disciplined and create good habits throughout the week so you can eliminate those.
come game time.
One player who needs to eliminate or at least cut down on the penalties is Associated Press preseason first-team All-American edge rusher Colin Simmons, who's committed a majority of the defensive ones for Texas.
I think he's leading the country in penalties right now with 5, as a matter of fact. I don't think he thought after 2 games that would be what he'd be leading the country in. He's trying to jump the snap count, and he's got to be more mindful.
Really bad penalty by Colin Simmons that time.
You have 12 penalties for 115 yards, which means there's some major fouls in there, and they were in all 3 phases. But really, who suffers when you get a penalty? All of us. The team suffers. It's not the individual he got the penalty, but we all serve the consequences for that. Our mental intensity needs to be as high as it needs to be. We need to play with the right type of discipline throughout the week. That discipline is what's going to lead to the proper habits of how we practice, which ultimately will lead to the consistency in our play, which will lead to the growth that all of us need to make.
During Texas' win last week against San Jose State, Arch Manning had a bounce-back performance with 295 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. There was a post on social media that went viral that showed Arch Manning grimacing after making a throw. Injury rumors started to ramp up, and head coach Steve Sarkisian shut down those rumors.
Arch Manning seemed to be having some throwing pains by the
According to who?
Arch.
Arch said that to you?
No.
Oh, according to who?
It just looked like he was.
He doesn't have any.
Is there an explanation to why it looked like that?
I don't know. I've never filmed any of you guys when you're using the bathroom, so I don't know what faces you make when you're doing that.
We're just a few minutes away from kickoff. Don't go anywhere. We've got predictions coming up on Central Texas Game Day.
Good Morning start in your neighborhood.
And on Good Morning Texas, we strive to show you everything happening in your neighborhood.
From connecting with your community
to an accurate morning forecast.
We want to share it with you.
Start your day with us every weekday morning at 5 a.m.
On Good Morning Texas, your source for news and weather in
All right, welcome back into Central Texas Game Day. Donna, I don't know about you, but one thing I do love is I am kind of a movie guy, and I love sports movies.
You are, and this was prompted during A&M availability earlier in the week when linebacker Scooby Williams was asked if he's seen Rudy, and I'll be honest, he didn't know which movie Rudy was, and I was like, am I old for knowing the reference? And so obviously then that prompted conversation in the newsroom. Has everybody watched Rudy? And so anyways, we walked around, we polled and asked people what their favorite part of Rudy was. So take a look.
Rudy's one of my favorites. I just love when he first goes out there, he's got that helmet, that 24 karat gold, right? That 24 karat gold helmet. Oh, that's one of my favorites.
I can't stand anything to do with Notre Dame. I've never seen that movie.
Let me think back to high school over a decade ago. I think it, like, the typical underdog arc. Like, he finally gets that moment in the game.
I think it's where they're like shouting Rudy and he's on like, isn't there, are they doing, that's it.
I've never actually watched Rudy. I've only watched like pieces of it. I've never sat down and watched it. I mean, I like Notre Dame, not this week, gig 'em.
Honestly, it's very silly, but the part where Jon Favreau is bouncing up the stairs, screaming VICTORY, 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 that's our cry.
The part where he's about to give up and the old priest in the chapel kind of tells him to hang on, and he decides to, and then his last chance to get into Notre Dame, he got it.
Have you watched the movie Rudy?
No.
Why not?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
The movie?
Yeah, the movie.
Oh, I like whenever he says, "Coach, I can do it! I can do it!" And then he's like, "Oh, let's see!" And then he proceeds to get tackled.
Okay, well, kind of a mixed bag there. I'm actually a little surprised. I mean, not really. In this day and age, I get it. Rudy's kind of one of those sports movies that kind of is fading into the spotlight a bit.
I guess so. I don't know. I was actually impressed with how many more people knew it than not. And so that makes me feel less old than I did when Scooby said, Rudy? And he said, what's that? Oh boy. Anyways, all right, let's get it going with predictions.
Yeah.
Last week, me and Shaji went 4-1, both of us, because we picked all of the same games. And so now Shaji's still a game back at 7-3. I'm at 8-2. We'll see if you can make up some ground this week. We've got a lot of picks to go through, so let's get it going.
All right.
Baylor versus Samford, 11 a.m. McLean Stadium.
Oh, this is tough. No, it's not. I'm going with Baylor. I think Baylor's going to take their momentum that they had from SMU. They're going to dominate. They should dominate. I'm going with Baylor.
I'm with you. I'll take the Bears on this one. All right, number 16, Texas A&M versus number 8, Notre Dame, 6:30 in South Bend.
I'm going to let you go first here. I'm curious to see what you think is going to happen.
Okay. All right. It's been a really long time. You heard me say 46 years. I'm going to go with the Aggies.
Okay.
Give me the Aggies. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think they pull this one out. So give me Texas A&M.
We're going to differ. We're going to change
Okay.
here. Rudy. Okay. I'm taking Notre Dame here. I think Notre Dame's going to get the win. I think it's going to be a close game. I agree, but I think Notre Dame's going to win.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Number 7, Texas hosting UTEP, 3:15.
I mean, this isn't a hard decision for me. I think Texas is going to win. I think they're going to keep their momentum going from that last game.
Yep, give me the Longhorns. All right, number 21, Texas Tech versus Oregon State, 2:30 p.m. kick. How we feeling about the Red Raiders?
I'm going to say the same thing I said last week. Matt Hines will not be happy with me if I don't pick Texas Tech, so I'm going with Texas Tech.
Until Texas Tech fails me, I think I'm going to have to go with the Red Raiders, so give me the Red Raiders. We got TCU versus Abilene Christian, 7 p.m. kick. How we feeling?
You know, I like I said in the beginning, I think TCU is going to be a dark horse for a really good candidate for the Big 12, and so far I think they're kind of proving me right a little bit. So I think I'm going to stick with TCU here.
Well, I'm going to roll with you too on that. The Horned Frogs. Let's go. All right, this one we might maybe differ. Florida taking on number 3 LSU in Death Valley, 6:30 p.m. kick. This one, I am all eyes on this one as well.
Wait, okay, so all eyes are on this one. So what do you mean? Who are you taking in this one?
I'm going LSU.
Okay.
I'm going LSU.
Yeah, I am too. I didn't think this would be that big. I didn't think we'd really have like different opinions on this. I think LSU has been really good this season so far. So I think I'm going to go with them.
Maybe not, but I think Florida's a little bit on the hot seat here after their loss at the Swamp last week to South Florida. So I really think it's more so of a Florida needs this one.
Yeah.
LSU should be able to handle business.
Exactly. Florida needs it. They're not going to get it.
Fair. Okay. Okay. Number 6, Georgia versus number 15, Tennessee, 6:30 p.m. kick.
Yeah, I think Georgia's going to win this. Yeah, I think Georgia is going to take this one.
Okay, I've got Tennessee.
Okay, whoa, look at us changing it up a little bit here.
Not pick for pick this time. And then the one that's coming up next, Wisconsin versus number 19, Alabama. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm not used to Alabama being all the way down at 19. Obviously, you know, we grew up with the Saban era. I still think Alabama is going to win this game. I think Alabama's going to take it.
All right, give me the Tide. I got them too.
All right, well, there you go. I'm curious to see how this is going to pan out.
Should be an interesting week next week.
Either I take the lead or I very much fall way behind. Well, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for joining us for week 3 of Central Texas Game Day, brought to you by the Zimmerman Law Firm. We'll see you next week.